And welcome back, everybody. Happy Friday. This is Rusty here with the Rugby Review. And this week we're going to be going through round 3 of the Six Nations tournament. This is the last round leading into the 1-week break that the teams will be taking. And then round 4 will resume the first weekend of March. So with that being said, here's just a quick review of the games that were played this past week. So Saturday, February 21st, we saw 2 games, England versus Ireland, and the second game was Wales versus Scotland. And on Sunday was the third and final game, which was France versus Italy. So let's take a peek at the results. So here are the final results from this past week. Game 1 saw a very dominant performance by Ireland, with Ireland securing the win with a score of 42-21 over England. Game 2 was a super close game between Wales and Scotland, which saw Scotland edge out the victory by a score of 26-23. And the third and final game of this past weekend was another strong performance by the French, with the French winning their game by a score of 33-8. So let's take a deeper dive into each one of these games. The first game we're going to look at is obviously the England versus Ireland game. So I don't think the stats showcase how dominant Ireland was during the course of this game. From the opening kickoff, Ireland was on it, focused, concentrated, ready to go. Despite England having possession and territory stats in their favor, which forced Ireland to play a little bit more defense and make more tackles, Ireland by far was the better team offensively in addition to defensively as well. So what I would like to zoom in on real quick is the bottom half here, and really looking at the turnovers won and turnovers lost. I think this kind of really hones in and emphasizes the point of Ireland just being the much better team this week. And so we see with turnovers won, Ireland had 11 turnovers won to just 2 turnovers won for England. Ireland's much more disciplined around the breakdown, maintaining more possession, and obviously able to take advantage and have many scoring opportunities. In addition, England was very ill-disciplined when it came to handling the ball. England had 24 turnovers lost to just 12 for Ireland. With the way Ireland was playing this past week, having 24 handling errors and turning the ball over 24 times to Ireland is just way too many, and it's going to just constantly dig yourself deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole, which is what England did, and it resulted in Ireland having a very dominant win. So again, huge, really strong win for the Irish this week. Probably a good thing for England that there's a week break coming right now, so that way they can reset and mentally re-engage and be ready for the final 2 weeks of the tournament. Our second game of the week was the Wales-Scotland game, and this was the stereotypical tale of 2 halves, because in the first half, Wales was on it. They were stronger defensively, stronger offensively. They put Scotland under a huge amount of pressure in the first half, and this was probably some of the best rugby I have seen this Welsh team play for a few years now. And then in the second half, it was a complete role reversal. Scotland was a very strong team, the much stronger team in the second half, able to put Wales under that defensive pressure, make a good scoring run to come back and eventually win the game. Now, since this was a tale of 2 halves, we can't really see the difference between the first half and the second half stats here. However, I think just looking at a handful of stats, we'll be able to see just how strong Scotland was in the second half to have to come back to win this game. So if we zoom in on the bottom half here, let's start with post-contact meters. Despite the dominance of Wales in the first half, Scotland was able to be dominant in post-contact meters. So Scotland had 311 post-contact meters to just 201 for Wales. So again, it's a tale of two halves, and the second half for Scotland was just super strong. As you can see, they're just edging out that gain line much more effectively than Wales was. And then if we look further down the stat sheet at defenders beaten plus clean breaks, we see Wales had 15 defenders beaten, which translated into only 2 clean breaks, versus Scotland having 21 defenders beaten, translating that into 9 clean breaks. So, once Scotland was able to get the ball rolling, they were able to just put Wales under a huge amount of defensive pressure again, able to come back and win the game. So, Scotland, I would imagine, would be very happy that they were able to make the comeback, get into the game, win the game. It's a bit of a heartbreak for Wales because of the last-second loss. However, there is a lot of positives to be taken from this game because this was the best game they have played this Six Nations by far. And that first half hopefully will give Wales a lot of momentum going into these final 2 weeks. And our third and final game was another strong performance by the French, even though the stats don't really say that. But I will say, this game was much, much closer than what the scoreline suggests. France was only able to extend this lead only when Italy got a yellow card. It was about the 70th minute, so the last 10 minutes of the game, Italy was playing a man down, and France was able to keep Italy under a lot of pressure, defensive pressure, and get a couple scores at the very end to extend this lead, to make this look like a bit of a blowout here. But again, strong game for strong game for France. And what I would like to zoom in on is just the top half here. Again, this game was very even and very close until the 70th minute. And then Italy got a yellow card, which allowed France to extend their lead. Now, if we look at post-contact meters, France had 326 post-contact meters to just 157 for Italy. France was, again, putting a lot of pressure on Italy throughout this entire game. And, would the dam have broken, so to speak, if Italy had 15 people for the entire game? Who knows? Difficult to say. However, the game played out the way that it did. Italy got the yellow card. That pressure with the post-contact meters that France was exerting on Italy throughout the first 70 minutes was a little too much for 14 players to handle. And again, France was able to secure a very, very strong win, securing their spot at the top of the table. And then Italy, after a strong first game of the Six Nations, definitely will look to bounce back in the final 2 weeks. Now, with that being said, let's take a look at the live ladder here. So, on the left side of the screen was the standings after round 2. On the right side of the screen is the standings after round 3. We still see France and Scotland holding the top 2 positions. France still has that 4-point lead over Scotland. Ireland continues their ascent up the table after having gotten that victory over England this past week. And we see England plus Italy continue to fall down after a couple of losses for both teams, and Wales still at the bottom of the table. However, they did get a losing bonus point this week, so they are not totally skunked for the tournament. And round four's schedule is as such. So we see one game on March 6th. Again, no games this up-and-coming weekend. Six Nations has a week off, and then the first weekend of March is when they continue. So March 6th, we have a game between Ireland and Wales, and the following day, March 7th, we see Scotland versus France, which that is a huge game. If Scotland can win that game, that just throws a big wrench into who is at the top of the table and makes this competition much more competitive, followed by Italy versus England. So that's it for this week. I hope everybody enjoyed round 3. And if you guys like this video, feel free to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Feel free to share this video with anybody you think might want to watch it. And I will be back next week with domestic leagues, and then the first week of March we will be back with round 4 of the Six Nations. So I hope everybody enjoys the rugby this weekend, and I will see you next time.